Dave Anderson here with the Fisherman magazine. It is July 13th. These are your headlines. If you're a striper fisherman, it was a good week to be you. The canal went off to epic proportions. A lot of big fish and lots of numbers. And there were also at least two 60-pound stripers taken from Rhode Island waters this week. In addition to that, if you're a tuna fisherman, man, it seems like every hotspot is popping off right now. Stay tuned for all that and more on this week's New England Fishing Forecast.
The Fishing News is sponsored by these fine partners.
I'm Captain Greg DeBrule of the party boat Blackhawk out of Niantic, Connecticut. You've seen us at the sport shows, you've seen us on TV, magazines, newspapers. Now you can come fish with us, okay? We're fast, we're clean, and we're comfortable. And besides that, we catch them, ask around. Come visit us at blackhawksportfishing.com. We'll save a seat for you.
Before we begin, we've got a couple news items to cover. The first one is Black Hall Outfitters Fluke Fest. That's going to run from July 20th to the 23rd, and it's $40 per angler. Now, Black Hall Outfitters, they really know how to party. These guys know how to throw an event. It's going to be 4 days of fishing. There's going to be a big after party at the end. They usually have live music. They have great food. They also have 4 Calcuttas you can kick in on. They got fluke, sea bass, sea robin, and dogfish, I believe. You can get all the details at blackhalloutfitters.com. Just click on the captain's log and then go to news and events, and you can find all the details there. The Calcuttas are $20 a piece, and I mean, if you kick in on all those, geez, you might walk away with multiple prizes. First place finisher is going to walk away with some cash, a substantial cash prize, and the second place finisher is going to walk away with a top end rod and reel. So you definitely want to check that out. And while we're on the subject of fluke, let's toss it over now to the latest addition to the fisherman family, Jenni Ackerman. She's one of our graphic artists. She's also a heck of a fluke fisherman. So check this out.
Hey everyone, welcome back. I'm Jenni Ackerman, and today on Open Boat, we're going to be discussing fish biology. Now don't worry, this isn't a summer school lesson. It's informative for you anglers to learn some biology about the fish. So it's important for the angler not only to catch the fish, but to understand the science behind the species. So today on Open Boat, we're going to be talking about fluke biology. Fluke can grow fast, but have a relatively short life of up to 14 years. Around 2 to 3 years old is when they begin to spawn, and females, based on their size, have between 460,000 to 4 million eggs. As they grow, the bones on the right side of their skull grow faster than the left, causing the right eye and nostril to migrate to the left side, making them excellent ambush predators. So I hope you guys learned a little bit about the fluke, and next time you're fishing in the surf or you're on the boat with your buddies and you catch yourself a nice fluke, you could host your own little fish biology seminar and teach your friends something about the fluke too.
Now we're going to take a quick look at what's going on in the Dream Boat Challenge.
It was a slow week in the Dream Boat Challenge, but 2 new fish hit the board. The first was a 2.06-pound scup landed by Michael Rosenberg of Commack, New York, which currently holds 8th place for the category. And then we had Thomas Logan of Brick, New York, with his 8.9-pound fluke, which sits in 7th place for the flatfish category. The top 3 remain unchanged. Luke Citrelli holds 3rd place with 18 points. Eddie Terrabil remains in 2nd place with 21 points, and Bobby Cifarelli is our overall leader with 25 points. The Dream Boat Fishing Challenge is the Fisherman subscriber-only multi-species fishing competition with a chance to win a new 21-foot Steigercraft center console powered by Yamaha, along with many other great prizes. Visit thefisherman.com to subscribe and get all the details so you can be part of the action.
And the last thing, of course, is the giveaway, which is ongoing. This one's going to wrap up on July 26th, so you've still got about 13 more days to log an entry. I have to say, we have seen a dramatic uptick in entries over the last 7 days. Lots and lots of text messages coming in, and a lot more really nice photos. So it's starting to tighten up. But if you don't know how this whole thing works, it's pretty simple. You just email or text your photos to me. You can email them to danderson@thefisherman.com. Just make sure you put giveaway or contest in the subject line, or you can text them to the number on the screen. And basically, you just have to impress me. I'm going to pick my favorite 3. I'm going to give away 3 prize packages. The first place prize is going to be a custom-made darter made by me. Then there's going to be some no-life bait needed plastics. And then finally, there's going to be some Game On lures to the 3rd place finisher. Email those in to me, text them in to me, and we'll pick a winner on July 26th.
For more than 20 years, anglers everywhere have come to know one thing, that nothing says no to fish bites.
Now we're going to move over into the fishing reports, and we're going to start things off up in Maine. The big news from Maine right now is that the fish that were up inside the rivers, all these stripers that were up inside the rivers, have now moved out. They're out along the beaches. They're in between the 8 million islands down there in the southern part of Maine. They're running along the reefs out there. Surf guys have been doing really well with plastic swimmers, like a hydro minnow or a redfin. Just casting those from the beach, just swimming those along, especially at night. Also, hearing about a lot of fish caught in needlefish up there. Boat guys have been crushing it on live eels and live mackerel. A lot of big fish up there. You know, I mean, there's a wide range of sizes from, like, you know, schoolies all the way up to 50 inches. So very, very good fishing going on up there right now. And also just a high concentration of fish right around the slot size too. So you've got a real aggregate of this possibilities of sizes of stripers up there right now. So if you're from Maine or if you're visiting Maine, definitely would be worth going out there and doing a little bit of striper fishing. Dropping down into the North Shore, we'll start things off with James Jewkes.
The reports are that the pike fishing is still going on. There's some pretty good panfish going on too as well, and some smallies are being caught. Largemouth is doing okay too. Check out those ponds and lakes, and if you're near the rivers, just be careful because of this last bit of rain that came through, really muddied things up. Down on the ocean front, stripers are still going. Spotty bluefish up here in the North Shore, but out on the island, yep, chunkers are doing well. Macks, pogies, clams, worms, you name it. Not a ton of small fish, so just keep at it, and you could end up landing that fish of a lifetime out there. It's happened a lot this year, it seems. Not for me, but hey, keep at it, keep going. New moon's coming. The guys at night have been doing well on the redfins and needlefish, and some metal lip swimmers as well. So keep a smorgasbord in your bag and do what you need to do. Guys in the club that I belong to, Plum Island Surfcasters, they've done pretty good too. Fished 45 inches, a couple of smaller ones in the 40-inch range, and boat guys still killing it out front on the ocean front. But they're about a quarter to a half mile out, and the guys in the north of us and south of us a little bit here in the rocks, they're still holding steady. It's just keep grinding. That's all I can say.
Leaving the North Shore, kind of heading out toward Boston. Talked to a few guys now that are surf fishermen that have been striper fishing along that stretch, pretty much from Gloucester to Plymouth. I mean, that whole area there, we're kind of getting the same story, and that is that the bite has tapered off. So you're not seeing the numbers that you were seeing, but there's a lot of quality fish in that area. So if you put in 3-4 nights, you may be rewarded with a really nice fish, something in the high 30 or even 40-pound class. So that's one thing that you can definitely get excited about. Boat guys are finding them in the harbor still. Guys are doing it with live bunker mostly. You're definitely going to find some fish on those ledges down toward Plymouth as well. Another thing that's been starting to fire up is Jeffrey's Ledge. We're starting to hear about more tuna out there now, so guys are making that run. And you know, the tuna bite just seems to be percolating and just spreading out with every passing week. So that's a really good news if you're an offshore guy. Heading down toward the Cape proper, starting to get more striper reports now from the bayside. You're seeing some fish again outside of Barnstable Harbor. You're seeing some fish out on the Brewster Flats. You're seeing fish all around Race Point for the surf guys and the boat guys. Surf reports on the Cape definitely tapered off this week, and I don't think it's because the I don't think it's because the fish disappeared. I think it's because the canal was so good. And you're going to see that reflected here when we talk to Ian from the Goose Hummock shop. But, you know, they're out there, some of the finest sand beaches in the world, and they're talking about the canal. Check this out.
Wow. It's your boy Bags, into the fishing report this week. The inshore lure selections, you can kind of see this theme here. Yeah, I guess you can't really blow up the canal more than it's already blown up. It's kind of like the ultimate blow up. So canal's been super hot, lots of Tinker Max. So everybody's jigging the bottom with the 5-ounces, but they weren't breaking the surface the other day, and I actually did really good on this one. And the was it 2 1/3, the next size up. Magic Swimmer, it's classic. I usually drop the back hook and do a split wing swivel cut hook jam on this guy. A little bit nicer for the fish. The top water explosion on the Magic Swimmer is epic. And then this was an honorable mention as well. I had 7 or 8 fish on this the other morning. They were all solid. Again, not showing crazy on top water. People were still pulling with the pencils, but I was definitely having a little bit better hookup ratio with the minnow, just burning it back right on the surface. Been phenomenal this week. A little outside of actual fishing, we got some nice sun shirts in, being a fair complexion, to be nice, pasty white Casper guy, and spending a lot of time in the kayak. These are absolutely a must. Yeah, I don't need to get skin cancer to realize I don't want skin cancer. So these guys all hooded up, protect the back of your neck, nice and cool. Sims, high quality gear there. But yeah, we got a bunch of new arrivals. Men's, females, we got it all covered. From offshore, Team Hook'em. Phil went out yesterday to the canyons, absolutely just smashed the yellowfin. Probably some big eyes mixing in there too. Just absolute crazy action. I think they were tight 6 fish at the same time. So all hands on deck out there on the boat. Rick DuPont hooking Phil up with that. And then we vicariously get the tuna steaks from that. So the trickle down effect is strong here at the Goose. Loving every moment of it. But we're past the new moon, so the beach guys, get out there, tight lines. Have a great day, guys. Peace.
Heading down the Cape. Well, actually, before we do that, he was talking about how Phil was gone out to the canyons and they crushed the big eyes and the yellowfin, but also in closer, out at Stellwagen, out at the Sword, out at Crab Ledge, we're starting to see more and more bluefin, and we're seeing a lot of rec-size fish this year. We're seeing a lot of those stand-up size fish from 50 to 60 inches. So that's really exciting for for all the jig and pop guys or anyone who's been wanting to tangle with a tuna on stand-up. You got that opportunity right now, and there's good numbers of fish. Monomoy still has good numbers of small to medium stripers and some big bluefish in the mix as well. Those bluefish also heading out more toward Nantucket. The best fluke fishing is still in Nantucket Sound. Still seeing a lot of short fish, but the ratios are getting a little closer together right now, and action is picking up. If you want to catch black sea bass, you're going to want to fish around the Elizabeth Islands or the north side of the vineyard. That seems to be the area where the most sea bass action is happening currently. Moving through into Buzzards Bay, we had a push of stripers come through and some really big fish, but they didn't stick around long in Buzzards Bay. They went right up into the neck of the canal and then went right inside the canal, where things just went crazy this week. Heard a fish up to 54 inches landed from the canal. So it's been one heck of a week at the canal. For a little more on that, let's toss it over now to our resident canal guru, East End Eddie.
Hi Dave. My last report I said how fishing had slowed down in the canal, and right after I said that it exploded. The full moon was the day before 4th of July, and on the day of the holiday around 4 p.m. fish started breaking, and they haven't stopped much since. So it's been terrific. Guys are catching big fish, 30, 40 pounders on west tide, east tide, slack tide. Scott Ewell, an experienced canal rat, caught a 46-inch on a Wacky Mac jig, and went out that night after dinner and caught a 35-pounder. So the night bite has been terrific as well. Joe, the Real, R-E-E-L, McCoy, the Real McCoy caught some fish, including a 41-inch, and Glenn Lindsay caught his personal best for this season, a 44-inch. So there's been a lot of small mackerel, like 7-inch mackerel and sand eels in the canal that the predators have been feeding on. So east of the Bourne Bridge, east of the Sagamore Bridge, there's been some good action. Zach Baker caught a 28-pounder on a white fish lab. Fish Lab should hire Zach to do commercials because he catches so many nice fish on their product. And Kenny Nevins caught a 44-inch on a spook. And there's just been fish all over the canal. Mark Beckford, the great cabinet maker, caught more than one 30-pounder. He's been doing very well. Then he finished off with a 40-pounder that measured out to 47 inches. So I caught a 24-pounder that measured out to 43 inches with my white guppy Joe Bow and a surface bite and some other fish as well, but that was my biggest that week. So I had, there are some guys who have caught their personal best lifetime, like Paul Straczynski, who caught a 47-inch, beat his best by an inch and a half, and a great guy, Dave Torek, who's been battling some serious health issues while pulling for Dave, and Dave landed a 40-inch fish, 48-inch. I'm so happy for Dave. I'm happier for him than if I caught that fish myself. You can hear the waves behind me from a boat that just went by. So I had mentioned that we have a 40-inch club, 40-inch honor roll for guys who have caught at least one 40-inch. Some guys have caught a lot more than that. But I read off those names. I'd just like to add a few names to that list. Bob Dyer, Larry Silvestri, Brian Crowley, and Maggie Crowley. Congratulations to them. So my tip of the week, when you're tying a fishing knot and fishing line, wet the knot before you cinch down on it. That will reduce the friction and make for a better seating of the knot. So what I do is I make my leaders with fluorocarbon during the winter, and I'll sit in the living room watching TV, watching a movie or a ball game or something, and while I'm doing that, I've got a little cup of water next to me. And just before I cinch down on the knot, I'll dip it in the water to make it a smoother fit. And you know, some guys spit on their knot, but my wife frowns on spitting in the living room, so it's fussy, you know. So I use the water, and that works for me. So until next week, catch a big one.
Moving over into Rhode Island, striper fishing in Rhode Island has also been phenomenal. Around Aquidneck Island this week, we saw lots of big fish, including at least 2 fish that were over 60 pounds. One of them was caught aboard my friend Robbie Taylor's boat, the Real Easy. That fish was estimated to be 64 pounds, and then another one was caught by a local hardcore fisherman, Taylor Brown, and that fish was also somewhere in the 62 to 64 pound range. So it's pretty impressive. These fish are being caught on deep ledges, and they're mostly being caught on live eels. But there's a lot of big fish out there. There's a lot of 50-inch class fish being caught right now. 50-inch class fish can range greatly in weight, from 40 pounds all the way up to 65 pounds. So just because you broke 50 inches doesn't necessarily mean you broke 50 pounds, but boy, fishing right now for big stripers is awesome. For a little bit more on that and some of the other things that are happening on the eastern side of Rhode Island, let's toss it over now to TJ Kopecky.
And thanks, Dave. Hey guys, welcome back to another report for the Mount Hope Bay area, Sakonnet River, out to the Mount Hope Bridge is what I got for you this week. Saw a surge of small bluefish move into the Mount Hope Bay area, out around Spar Island, up into the Taunton River. They're feeding on small little peanut bunker that is coming out of the rivers. I just have a feeling that after the big rains that we just had, the salinity changed in some of that water, so the bite could slow down just a little bit, but those fish are there feeding, and it's great little activity to get on them with a small popper or a small 2 to 3 inch swim plug. Just have a little fun with them. But actually I like to catch those fish and keep them and use them as fluke bait. A bluefish strip works really, really good this time of year with those smaller bluefish around. So I do keep them, and I take my 3 each time I'm out there. I'll bring them home, I'll freeze them even. I'll cut them up. They work really well on a like a chicken rig or something when you're dragging them around. I did find that the fluke bite was still a little slow in Mount Hope Bay, moving in towards the Sakonnet, towards up into Church's Cove, where I actually have done well this time last year. I look back on my memories, but I think things are still going to get better, and they're just starting to like process now. I did have a couple of trips this week, and I got my niece Olivia out to do some scup fishing. This is the first time she's ever fished in her life, and she actually, it was lights out fishing for us. We found some nice scup underneath the Mount Hope Bridge, and she did really well. Caught a couple of those 16.5-inch scup, which I had talked about the previous week. They are still around inside of the bay there. I had found them in just some deeper water in the 60-foot to maybe 45-foot range. So if you're out there fishing and you're not getting them in the shallow water, try just moving out a little bit deeper. I had a couple of trips. I had one trip I went to the south side of Cuddy Hunk, and we did really well on sea bass. We limited out in 3 hours, 4 guys on the boat. It was a really great trip. And I also got to cross off one of my bucket list fishing trips. My buddy Tom from Westerly got me on his boat, and we took a trip out to Montauk Point from Westerly. It was probably like an hour boat ride out there, but I'll tell you, we get on some monster fluke. We fished the Cartwright, which is a great place in Long Island Sound. On the way in, we hit the Rips in Westerly off of Watch Hill. We caught stripers, we caught bluefish. All in all, it was a great trip out there, and there are lots of fish out in that ocean there. So great place to fish. So I think that in the upcoming weeks, the fluke will stop moving in, since some of that bait is starting to move out of the rivers now. Other than just the sand eels that have been around, and the fish have been feeding on those small sand eels. But I think once that peanut bunker starts moving around, we might get some more stripers that come inside of the Mount Hope Bay. So you guys have a great week, and tight lines.
Heading to the other side of Newport and kind of out toward Jamestown and Point Judith. Hearing a lot of good sea bass fishing on our side now. I mean, Block Island's still putting out a lot of fish, but we're hearing more and more and more action on the ledges inshore. Fishing's been very good. We're seeing lots of keeper-sized fish. There's still some fluke up around the bridges and some of those other sand patches out there. So bottom fishing is looking very good right now. For a little bit more on that and some of the other things that are happening in that region, let's toss it over now to Coral Aiello from Sara Star Charters.
Hi Dave, Coral here from Sara Star Charters with the Rhode Island Fishing Report. The striped bass bite right now is unbelievable. I mean, there are so many fish. They're just stacked up, especially out front of Newport where I'm fishing. We're still getting blitzes every once in a while. And when we do see the blitzes, they usually tend to last like all day. You'll see them busting on the surface along with the bluefish. Some bones mixed in. I have seen some. I haven't caught any, but I've seen them come straight up out of the water, and I'm like, hey, that's not a bluefish, So that's kind of early to start seeing those fish this time of year, but everything seemed to be kind of early this year. I will say with the bass, there are definitely more big bass than there are smaller bass. The average, bass right now is like 35 inches. So I'm not sure if that's, because of the slot limits that we've had in place these last few years, but there are so many big fish out there. The sea bass bite is definitely slower than it has been. We are getting them, but they're kind of deeper, 60 to 70 feet of water. Fluke fishing I haven't done much of, but I know a few people are catching some good fluke kind of in the bay area and out front into some deep water, like 100 feet. The offshore bite is, epic right now as well. I get a lot of guys are getting them on the troll. I mean, people are going out there and not even knowing what they're doing, and they're hooking up yellowfin and bluefin, and there's just so much going on. We are in the really hot, it's been really hot, so the water temperature is really warm. Yesterday, my thermometer read 74, I believe, out there, which was, that's pretty warm for this time of year. We don't usually see that until like August. So hopefully, that kind of cools down a little bit, because that can affect the fishing. But other than that, everything's been status quo. Lots of bass, bluefish, the sea bass is a little slow, but fluke, still, it's Rhode Island. It's not like Nantucket shoals. We don't get those big fluke, but every once in a while, if you work for it, you will get some nice fluke. So that's pretty much what's going on. I can't wait to see how this unfolds and how long this bite will last.
Block Island has been nicknamed the land of the dinosaurs, and with good reason. There are some really nice fish being caught out there, both sea bass and striped bass. I know John Lee, who we're going to talk to in a minute, had a 25-inch sea bass this week. That's a big fish. It's probably pushing 7, if not 8 pounds. And we've seen striped bass well into the 50-pound class this week out there, and lots of 40-pounders. They're being caught on eels, they're being caught on soft plastics, they're being caught on jigs, and there's even been some topwater action for some of these giants. So, man, the fishing out of Block right now is red hot. For a little bit more on that, let's toss it over now to John Lee from JL Charters.
We've had a busy week. The fluking's still pretty good. We are fishing deeper water, 65 feet, sometimes 80 feet. We're definitely targeting fluke, and the sea bass is a bycatch. The sea bass, we've had little moments where I think it's really improving, but then it kind of lulls out. Those bigger sea bass have been harder to get, but luckily we're getting fluke, so people are happy. We've had a couple of decent bass trips to the island, tube and worm, and that's about it. Take care. Talk to you next week.
Heading out along the beaches and breachways, fluking is still king out that way. We've heard of some fluke being caught from shore now inside the breachways, which is pretty exciting. And the fluking out off the beaches has continued to hold up, seeing, tighter ratios. You're not catching so many shorts to every keeper, so that's been a good thing. And the bass fishing out around Watch Hill and beyond has been really, really good. Even seeing some big topwater fish, guys getting them on live scup as well. So that's been really awesome. We'll wrap things up with kind of a funny video from Harrison over at Watch Hill Outfitters, and he basically wanted to roast his friend Steve-O for not paying attention perfectly when he was catching striped bass. Check this out.
Did you get a video of me fighting my fish?
Yeah. That's not a bad fish at all. Not a bad fish at all. I know you're barely. No! My eel! Oh yeah, you're gonna go to the grade, I know. Oh.
Moving over into Connecticut, a lot of the same things can be said for Fisher's Island that we've said for the South Shore of Rhode Island. You got fluke behind the island, you got some big stripers in the structure out there. This is the time of year when both of those things tend to really heat up behind fishers. Going out toward the race, we're seeing a lot more striped bass activity again this week, and some bluefish in like the 7 to 9 pound class, maybe a couple bigger ones. Diamond jigging, 3-weighing bucktails is getting those. The guys 3-weighing eels are finding some of the bigger bass as well. And you're going to find the same basic action out in the sluiceway and over in the gut as well. A lot of fish just moving through those gaps right now. Heading back towards shore, the best place to find striped bass in the eastern half of the sound right now is outside the Connecticut River. Some serious dinosaur-sized stripers there right now. Just some old, big, almost ugly big striped bass. For a little bit more on that, I'm sure we're going to hear about it from Mike Roy from Real Cast Charters.
Hey, what's going on, guys? For this week's fishing report, the striper fishing has remained really great. We're seeing a lot of average size fish being in the low 30-inch range to high 30-inch range, but we're also getting some 30-pound class and 40-plus pound class big stripers as well. So the only thing we're not seeing a ton of is schoolie-sized stripers, but that's kind of expected this time of year. Those schoolies should start to push in thicker towards the end of the summer when that small bait shows up thick. However, I will say that some of the deeper reefs are holding sand eels, and I have seen some schoolie stripers out there, and that seems to be where all the big blue fish are. The big blues are out on those deeper reefs that are loaded with bait. Black sea bass fishing, they're definitely starting to move around right now. And then we also had this big rainstorm yesterday morning and dumped a lot of water. So I expect that to have an impact on where the stripers are. I believe it's going to move them out. I would expect the rivers to be pretty dirty for the next few days. So get out there and catch them up.
bottom fishing in Connecticut has fired up considerably this week. You know that sea bass reopened last Saturday, and it opened with a bang. Seemed like it was almost a good thing that we left them alone for a couple weeks, because they really came in biting hard. Guys were doing well at the Bloody Grounds, guys were doing well out behind Fishers, guys were doing well south 6 Mile, Southwest, Faulkner's, all those reefs out that way. Guys were crushing them. Tons of scup in those waters as well. In fact, you could pretty much catch scup anywhere. Whether you're fishing in 5 feet of water or 55 feet of water, it doesn't seem to matter. It's just a lot of scup around right now. For a little bit more on what's going on up the Connecticut River Valley, let's toss it over now to Rowan Lytle.
Hey everybody, so the word of the week this week is high water. The Connecticut River is as high as it has been any point this year. Even the spring flooding didn't get anywhere near as close as these last sets of rain to the north of us has gotten the river. It is dangerous to try and boat on the main stem of the river right now. That includes down near the mouth. So if you had any plans of trying to straight bass fish around the mouth this coming weekend, I would recommend just waiting. There's a lot of trees in the water. There's a lot of deadheads that are going to be hard to see. It's just going to make boating dangerous, and the fishing's frankly not going to be that good anyway with this influx of dirty fresh water pumping out. However, the high water is going to make for some exceptional carp fishing. What I do in the spring is push back up into the flooded woods and cornfields, and right now, the same thing's going to happen, if not better. The fish are going to be more active, the water's warmer. So I'm going to be doing quite a bit of that over the next week or two when the water stays high. Stick to the tributaries and backwaters, and I wouldn't recommend boating on the main stem of the Connecticut right now. Just not a good idea. Good luck, everybody.
Now we'll head west out of the Connecticut River. We'll talk to Matt Stone from Black Hall Outfitters.
A lot of big striper around, all of their summer haunts at this point. They've mostly moved out of the river area. Still some to be found in the river mouth because there are some big bunker schools hanging around there. There are also some bunker schools that have moved down to kind of some inshore areas in the sound. Live eels working well along with those live bunker, big flutter spoons, big paddle tails, big top waters, tubes, all those sorts of things that we know catch striper in the summer. Those are your go-tos right now. Best early and late. The high summer sun is going to spook those fish, send them out deep, make them a little less willing to bite, but you can still probably get them during the middle of the day with some live bunker. They can't really resist that. Sea bass just reopened. We've gotten some good reports from the local reefs. They are biting well. Along with the normal things like bait rigs and slow pitch jigs, the Nomad Squid Trex, a new bait that we're carrying this year at the shop, is absolutely killing them. Guys are coming back in, buying 2 and 3 at a time because they say they're really getting those big sea bass. A lot of fun to fish them too. So definitely something to check out if you're looking for a new way to target some sea bass. Summer Tog is open. We've heard some really good reports, some good summer reports. They're biting well. Getting some good bait for those guys is the challenge. You can dig your own crabs. Some shops are carrying some crabs. Definitely worth going for those if you're looking to get the kids on some fun bottom fishing action. And speaking of that, porgies are doing well. They've moved in shallow. They're reachable from shore. All the normal stuff, squid, clams, anything like that's going to give you some porgy action. Lastly, some really good fluke coming in, a 9-pounder and an 8-pounder just in the last 2 days. Really good for our fluke bite. We love to see that happening. Black Hall Outfitters is hosting our 9th annual Fluke Fest, coming up July 20th through 23rd. You can sign up right on our website. It is all available there. We've got some Calcuttas going on. It's definitely something worth checking out. Fun tournament in the summertime with some really cool prizes as well. Good luck to everybody. We'll see. Hopefully this rain doesn't do too much to this great bite we got going on out there. Good luck to everybody and enjoy the summer.
We already talked about the sea bass fishing on the reefs out here. We're still hearing about some nice striped bass being caught out in the deep water. Guys chunking, guys drifting with eels. Closer to shore out in the western half of the sound, basically from Clinton out to Norwalk, there are a lot of bunker in along the beaches, and this has translated to some good surf casting in pockets. Basically, if you find the bait, you're finding some fish. These fish are ranging from like 15 to 30 pounds. There's been no monsters, but the fishing's been good when you can find the bait. For a little bit more on that and some of the other fisheries that are going on out in the western sound, let's toss it over now to Max Finch from Fisherman's World.
We're getting ready to head out right now and try some of the local weak fish biting. The weak fish bite is picked up this past week. We've seen a lot of actually nice weak fish in the mid to almost 30-inch range, shallow around the islands, places like Peck's Ledge, Peaches in the harbor, working the harbor edges, Manresa Flats. They've been on peanut bunker. Guys are getting them on sandworms, small spro pink bucktails. The striped bass bite remains good. It's definitely transitioning to that summer, you know, bass bite, early mornings, evenings, and then in the nighttime. If you're gonna target them during the day, live bait on some deeper water structures is gonna be your best bet. And also trolling those deeper water structures with umbrella rigs, deep divers, and mojos. There's still tons of gator bluefish around. Those guys you can find shallow around the island. They love this heat. You can find them finning out in the middle. So, you know, throwing poppers at them when you see them finning is always fun, or dragging wire with umbrellas, that's a good way to get them too. The fluke fishing, it hasn't really changed. It's still the same as the past couple weeks. It got good and then it slowed down a lot. You really gotta, you know, pound these areas and almost put in a whole tide to find your limit. But places like 26, Can 24, and then guys are still shooting across up in tight Eanes Neck, Smithtown Bay, and then off, you know, Port Jeff. Middle ground still has a really good bass bite too, and if you go that way, we've seen a lot of nice sea bass, so they will take a variety of baits. And then the porgy fishing, that's filled in everywhere. Guys are doing good from the beaches, the piers, you know, our state parks, you know, deeper water reefs, shallow water reefs. Always remember to bring clam chum, that helps. The tuna bite is blown open this past 2 weeks. You know, the dump was really hot. It slowed down a lot. A lot of people are getting now towards the Suffolk, Tuna Ridge. The gully's starting to fill in. And then, you know, West Atlantic's still doing good. The dip for guys going to the canyons, we've seen some really nice big eye. The yellowfin are moving closer too, so got a lot of people excited. We've been selling tons of tuna stuff this past week. It seems like it's mostly, you know, a trolling bite, spreader bars, side trackers, daisy chains, and then when guys are finding them pile up, you couldn't get them on the jigs and on the poppers. But mostly for everybody, it's been a troll bite, so now is the season. Get out there, all the fish are biting, and good luck.
And that's what I have for you guys in the reports this week. Hopefully they're going to inspire you to get out there. I mean, it's hot. I'm sweating here, and hopefully the shadows are hiding some of that sweat. But man, fishing is very good no matter what you want to fish for. Offshore stuff is really starting to fire up, so if you've been waiting for that window, let me tell you, you got to find it right now. If you're not a subscriber to The Fisherman, I highly recommend you head over to our website. That's thefisherman.com, and it'll give you a full taste of what we offer. We cover everything from Delaware all the way up to Maine, all the fisheries in there: striped bass, bluefish, cobia, fluke, sea bass, tilefish, it's all covered. We do freshwater, saltwater, boat, kayak, surf, it's all covered. You've got to check it out. You're also going to get access with a paid subscription to all 3 editions. That's the New Jersey, Delaware, the Long Island, and my edition, the New England edition. That's a big swath of the coast that you can check out and get all your reports, get all your details on how to fish in those areas. And you know, it's $30, $29.99 for the year, and it's worth it. So head over to the website, check us out, sign up. If you're still not interested, at the very least, give us a like and subscribe here on YouTube, and hit that little bell thing down there so you get a notification every time we post something new. I appreciate you guys for watching, and we'll see you next week.